Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Wrap, brought to you by Michigan Medicine Headlines. I'm Dan Ellman with the Department of Communication.
And I'm Bailey Merzick, also with the Department of Communication. Today, we're celebrating Nursing Professional Development Week by chatting with two of our incredible nurse educators.
Now, before we bring them on, check out any of our incredible episodes of The Wrap you may have missed. You can find the shows on your favorite podcast hosting platform, on the Michigan Medicine YouTube channel, and as part of the Headlines Week in Review.
And with that, let's bring in two of our members of our nursing team here at Michigan Medicine. First, can you both please share your name, unit, title, and how long you have been a nurse and employed at U of M Health?
I am Diane Bone. I am a new educational nurse coordinator at U of M's Cancer Center, the Rogel Cancer Center, and I support the nurses in the clinic areas. I have been in this role since March of this year, and I've been a nurse for 34 years.
And I am Stephanie Gibson. I'm an educational nurse specialist with the Department of Professional Development and Education. My programs I work with, I support ambulatory care and really any of their educational needs. And I also support central nursing orientation. So I get to teach all of our new hires to the university. I have been a nurse for 10 years, and I've been with the institution for 9.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and being on the podcast today, and for all that you do. Now, we've talked about nurse educators and nurse education, which is your role. Can you talk a little bit about what that role is like and what your day-to-day responsibilities are?
Sure. My day-to-day responsibilities are supporting approximately 88 nurses. Majority of them are in the cancer center itself. I have several nurses up in the Brighton ambulatory care area in Brighton, and I have one nurse in Northville. So I do have to make rounds on them on a monthly basis. I am currently educating our nurses on any new rollouts from the university, such as the new AED monitors that are going on our crash carts. I am designing education, one-on-one education for new preceptors in our cancer center program. And I also help answer questions. So when new staff members are starting, we give them a checklist and set them up with preceptors and do education one-on-one and at the chair side with them, taking care of patients, educating them, answering phone calls, and triaging phone calls.
So my day-to-day responsibilities are really I support ambulatory care as a whole. So I work on a lot of institutional initiatives for ambulatory care, look at gaps in education. So when I started, one of the biggest gaps that was identified was some issues with emergency management and how to respond in a critical patient situation. So we look at that gap and we identify ways to provide education to our frontline staff to really help support them best in their role. So I don't necessarily have staff underneath me. I really support our educational nurse coordinators in ambulatory care and try to remove any of their barriers to their work and support them in providing education to their staff. In addition to that, I work with central nursing orientation. So we just went live back in May. And so we are with our new orientees now for 4 in-person days, and they have 2 remote days. So I'm a part of that program as well. So I get to see everyone as soon as they walk in the door, and then a lot of people when they go into ambulatory care. I also teach the ambulatory care nursing orientation. So I get to meet all of our new staff to ambulatory care specifically and support them. So that is primarily what I do on my day-to-day is look for educational needs and for ways to support that being delivered to our frontline staff.
So if someone wanted to become a nurse educator, what kind of advice do you have and what additional qualifications or experience would be required for someone who would like to become a nurse educator in the future?
I can start that. I think number one, you have to have a passion for education. You have to feel comfortable lecturing, sitting one-on-one with staff, having maybe precepted in your previous roles. Myself, I taught at the School of Nursing full-time and part-time since I was in graduate school. So when you are comfortable to be a leader, to educate, to be a resource, to be a mentor, those are all great qualities to have for these roles.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Diane said. I think leadership is a really important skill. I think effective communication as well. And the ability to take constructive criticism. I think that has to come with the territory as well. Because a lot of what we do is looking at, what is going wrong and how can we make it better. And to know what's going wrong, you have to hear what's going wrong, which doesn't always feel the best, but it really helps us be successful at what we're doing to make sure our staff are successful. And then I think for my role in PD&E, if anyone is, interested in that direction, you do have to have your master's. I always encourage our nurses to go back to school and get their master's degree. So that is a requirement as well.
You both clearly have a passion for what you're doing, and I think that that's great. What would you say is among the most rewarding aspects of your career?
I think for me is getting the aha moments when nurses understand what you're trying to pass over or teach them. I think the aha moment when they get it right, when they feel good and confident and took the instruction and ran with it. I think those success stories that we're making a difference. They like to see our presence around the cancer center. They like to see you visible. You come and touch their shoulder in the morning and say, any questions, any problems? What can I help you with? That you're someone to bounce off concerns. Sitting on different committees where the workload committees, where if I hear there's a problem or concern, is it something that I can educate them about, or can we pre-plan or work with their supervisors in order to divert or take care of that concern?
I think for me, I work a little less with the frontline staff and a little bit more with our nurse educators, our educational nurse coordinators. When I started in this role, which was a little over 2 years ago, we had kind of an influx of new ambulatory care ENCs. And so we were really treading unnavigated waters together. And we started all of these new kind of coffee hour meetings and really touch bases and supported each other. It was a challenging time. And looking back where we were and where we are now, it's wonderful to talk with them. One of the things we do during our meetings is we talk about one area that we need some support in, something that maybe isn't going so well, we need to bounce off. And then one success, no matter how small, but one success that we had over the past month. And when we started, it was really hard to find that success. And now it's really hard to find that failure or something that we need support in. And seeing that transition is so rewarding to me. Seeing people be fulfilled in their educational role. And with central nursing orientation, the same thing. With our new hires, we get feedback from them, and from the beginning of orientation, where coming into U of M is really kind of a daunting thing. We're a huge institution, and by the end, they're just so excited to work for the University of Michigan Health and all that it has to offer. So just seeing that transition from some fear and hesitation and moving really towards all of this success and excitement about being a nurse educator is really, it's the best part of my job.
It sounds like trust is a big factor here, right? Where you need the nurses who are on the ground to trust you to, that they can bring their concerns to you, that you're not going to be judgmental of their concerns or dismissive of their concerns, right? And you're going to work to fix them, right?
Absolutely. It's them finding that commonality with you, that you're not necessarily their supervisor, you're not their peer, but you're someone that, yes, they can trust. They know you will answer them. You will seek out a way to solve some of these problems that they bring forward, and that we can do it again in the future because we were successful this time.
Yeah, and Stephanie brought up a little bit about some challenges you've had to deal with in the beginning, but do you have any other challenges, facing nursing education or staff development today, and how are you addressing those challenges that may come up?
I think one of the biggest ones is time. I think time is a huge factor. Time, space, staffing. I think all of the barriers that we see a lot in healthcare globally affect education. It's hard to prioritize that when you're really just trying to keep things together in the moment and make sure you have enough people to take care of patients, and then you're trying to pull them out for education. There's it's so important, but you have to have the people and the time to do it, right? So I think right now that's a big challenge for us. I think we have gotten a lot of support to try to navigate those waters and have a lot. I think in ambulatory care education over the last several years has been really prioritized. And that is really nice for me to see that it is a priority, that people do want to work on it, and that we are going to do whatever it takes to make sure that our staff are prepared and they feel prepared for the roles that they're in. But it is challenging finding time and people.
So this might be a challenging question here. We talked about challenges, but looking back over your careers, are there any sort of moments or experiences that really stand out for both of you? Maybe it's an achievement too. And how did those moments that are so memorable sort of change the way you thought about teaching and education and, bringing it to everyone who you're trying to help improve?
I think that you always have those educators, preceptors, nurses that give their heart and soul when you are a new grad or in nursing school. And you saw how they got their hands dirty too. That's what I always say. They were in the trenches with you. And I always appreciated that a lot about my nursing educators. And I wanted to be like that. And so knowing early on, having attended the University of Michigan, I knew I wanted my master's degree even when I was an undergrad. And so always setting goals for yourself, getting your oncology nurse certification, getting your master's degree, going to continuing education seminars and conferences, those always have to be on the forefront because we are continuing to always learn, and things change frequently in medicine.
I think for me, I've always loved leadership. I went and got my master's, and I was a nurse leader for several years. And one of the things that I really realized was the best way to make a really positive impact on culture, on your staff, is really through education in one way or another, supporting people in their roles and making sure they have the tools that they need to be successful in their roles. And so it really transitioned me to more of an education track, that by providing education, by providing support, by looking at these gaps and kind of filling them with something the staff needs, it makes a huge difference, and it makes a really big impact. It's hard to create change in such a large institution, but what you can do is create educational opportunities. You can create opportunities for staff to come together, like our conference that we have coming up for ambulatory care, to network, to really talk about all of the innovative ideas that people have. So I think that creating that space for education and really prioritizing it is, for me, has been nice to see that I have been able to create that positive change that I've always really strived to do and just haven't been able to until now. So that's what I love about this role, and that's why I've really stuck with it.
Thank you both so much for sharing your experience with us today and for all the work you do every day here at U of M Health. If you want to learn more about Nursing Professional Development Week, you can go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
All right, it's time for the lightning round when we ask one of our guests 4 quick fire questions they haven't seen before. Diane, you're going to be in the hot seat today. Are you ready to go?
Ready.
All right, we talked a lot about education on today's show. So
Yes.
looking back, what was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school, you're going to laugh because now I'm a nurse. It was an interior design class in 8th grade. I know.
Wow. Well, okay, so this leads to the next question, possibly.
Yes.
If you weren't a nurse educator, what would be your dream job? Would it be interior design?
Almost, but I've got one better than that. I currently volunteer at a wedding store. So I'm a wedding store consultant, finding the right dress for,
Wow.
brides. And the money goes to a nonprofit oncology group here in Ann Arbor.
That's amazing. How'd you get into that?
So one of my medical assistants bought a dress there. It's the Brides Project. It is on North Campus. And I said, where did you get that dress? Because I'm always interested in what are the colors for the wedding? What are the bridesmaids' dresses look like? What are the flowers? And she told me about this. So at the beginning of COVID, I felt like I needed to do something else. We were children had already moved out of the house and no animals. So I went and did some shadowing, and now I get to say yes to the dress once a month. And all the money goes to the cancer community between St. Joe's and U of M.
That's awesome. So the next question, it is just about fall here in Michigan, even though the
Yep.
weather does not show it yet. But one of the biggest traditions, of course, here is going to a cider mill. So do you have a favorite cider mill or another fall destination maybe that you like to go to?
So we are very lucky. I am from Dexter, Michigan, and we have the oldest cider mill in the state of Michigan, still in operation. So I think my husband's already been there twice, standing in line at 8 a.m. to get cider and donuts for friends and family that are stopping by. So yes.
That's great. So you're there often every fall.
Yes. Yes.
That's great. All right, we're going to close on a very serious and important question. This Friday is National Pepperoni Pizza Day. What is your favorite type of pizza?
Hands down, deep dish. And it would have to be ham, mushrooms, and black olives and Detroit style, if not Chicago style.
I think that's fair. I would lean Detroit style. I lived in Chicago for a while, and now I can't eat more than one of those pieces. I'm like,
No.
how did I do this before? Like when I was in college, I'd be there once a week. Now I can't even look at it without getting heartburn.
And Buddy's is the best.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Diane, for playing along with the lightning round and for sharing your insight into your work during Nursing Professional Development Week. If you want to learn more about the week, you can go to mmheadlines.org. That's mmheadlines.org.
And while you're there, you could check out other featured stories, including an article on an important new initiative at U of M Health Sparrow that's helping combat preterm births. Find that story and so much more at mmheadlines.org.
All right, Dan, so you started to kind of talk about it, but the pizza question, I want to go back to what is your favorite style of pizza? Maybe beside Buddy's deep dish.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll go with that, but in terms of toppings. So I'm pretty plain when it comes to food. I'm not super adventurous. And there was one time I was at a restaurant and I ordered a pepperoni pizza because that's what I do. And the server asked if I wanted something a little bit more adult. I wasn't sure if that was an insult or not. I thought it was a little bit weird, but I will say that now I get pepperoni and jalapenos. That makes it a little bit more adult, a little spicier. That's about as adventurous as I get. So I'll get pepperoni and jalapeno. What about you?
All right. So I would say anything goes on pizza except for anything like anchovies or fish, something like that. But I am like I know a lot of people don't like pineapple on pizza. I love pineapple. I love all of it. And definitely deep dish buddies is the way to go. Not so much of a thin crust, more of a thick crust.
Yeah, you gotta have more of the crust, especially if it's like golden crust. It's perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, it's time for the weekly trivia contest. What is the name of the previously mentioned initiative at U of M Health Sparrow that is helping combat preterm births? Once again, what is the name of that initiative at U of M Health Sparrow that's helping combat preterm births? You can find the answer in this week's headline story. Once you know it, send it to headlines@med.umich.edu for the chance to win a prize.
And that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you to all of our guests for joining us, and thank you, as always, to all of our listeners and viewers for everything you do for patients, families, and each other. We will see you next time.